friend. I'm so excited that you're here. We're going to be having a lovely interview with Jennifer Peel, who is a romance author, and I'm really excited to chat with her. So let's hop into the interview. And if you're new here, be sure to hit the subscribe button down below so that you can follow along and see more videos like this. I do interviews and I also talk about writing tips and tricks and the publishing world. So if that sounds like fun, hit the subscribe button. Well, okay, first of all, can you just introduce yourself and tell a little bit about your writing and publishing journey and everything, just for people that might not know about you?
Okay. Well, I'm Jennifer Peel. So I've published 39 books, mostly rom-coms, wrote contemporary romance. I have published under a pen name where I've done a fantasy novel, and I will continue with that series, and also do other in that genre. I'm really excited about that. My pen name is JJ Mackenzie.
Okay.
I I feel bad always telling people about my writing journey. I was just at a conference this weekend, and I was on a panel, and I was on a panel with Dan Wells, and he's a New York Times bestseller. And people are asking about my journey, and so my journey, I really just kind of lucked into it. And I never planned on being a writer. I didn't grow up thinking like, oh, I'm going to be a writer. I didn't start writing till I was almost 40 years old. And
Okay.
I really just started writing as a stress relief because I love to read. I read a lot. And I typically write on the cleaner side of things for romance. I don't bill myself as a clean romance author by any stretch of the imagination, but I typically do. But reading in that sweet genre, that cleaner genre, I would say some of the stories at the time, I was like, oh, I don't know. Like it kind of left me a little unsatisfied. I thought, well, what if I just write like a story that I would really like and that's somewhere in the middle and has a little bit more meat behind it. And anyways, I just started writing just for the fun of it. And one Christmas, my husband was like, hey, you should just read to me one of your stories. And
Oh,
I
cool.
was like, okay. So at night, after we put our kids to bed, after our kids would go to bed, they were older. Our kids are a little older by time, but they put themselves to bed. I would just read to him, and he was like, "Well, this is so good." And anyways, I just kept writing again, not even thinking about publishing. And my family was like, maybe you should just think about self-publishing. And I don't like to be in the spotlight, and I don't like people to like look at me in ways. So I was like, that was just a really uncomfortable thought to me. But they finally convinced me to do it, and I did. And I mean, my first book did nothing, obviously, and but I had all these other stories I had already written, and I made a ton of mistakes. But even through all the mistakes, within a year, I was making more money than I was at my marketing job.
No.
And so, yeah, so I was able to quit my job, and it just kept building from there. So anyways, I was on this panel last weekend at a writers conference, and Dan Wells is like, everybody raise your hand who hates Jennifer Peel for lucking into the job you've always wanted, your dream job. But anyways, I do
That's
feel bad,
funny.
and it is unusual. And I mean, I'm super grateful for it, and it's been a wonderful journey. But yeah, so that's a little bit about me.
Awesome. That's
Yeah.
just wonderful. And I'm so glad that it's been going well for you and everything. That's just so wonderful. And I love your story. And I've read some of your books and I've really enjoyed them and stuff. So keep up the great work.
Oh, sweet. Thanks.
Yeah, no problem. And then I know that you mentioned that you had done you'd made some mistakes. Would you mind going into a couple of those, like that, that you've learned from, that you think that other indie authors should look into paying attention to?
Yeah, I mean, obviously at first, like they weren't as well edited as they should have been at first. And I did a lot more of like telling than
Mhm.
showing. I actually just pulled my first book down. Like I'm totally
Oh,
rewriting it. And so I'm gonna just totally rewrite it. I've been able to fix a lot of the first ones, just go in and fix some things to make and have them re-edited. But this one I was just like, this one just needs too much help. So I just pulled it down, and I'm just rewriting it from scratch. It's the same plot line, but
nope.
and cover wise, I feel like, and I mean, my brother-in-law did my covers at first, and he did a really great job. And they were really beautiful covers, but I don't think they weren't really like what sells as well. And so I've actually gone back and redone all my covers.
Okay.
And I've even done some covers a few times just to keep up with, just what's in style, what's selling right now. Oh, Illustrated is really hot right now.
Mhm.
So
Yep.
I've gone through and redone even ones that I already had redone before that I really loved, but just, and they've really, and it's been helpful. Like it's really breathed new life into my backlist by doing that. So, and
Awesome.
I think just, I think, I don't know that they're all mistakes because it's just kind of you learn as you go, you learn the business and, so it's been a journey for sure. So
Oh, that's just awesome though. And like it's crazy how much a cover can change, like or even the blurb or just those
yeah,
things, changing those things, like how much
yeah,
it can change the whole marketing
it really
journey.
can. Yeah. Yeah, no, it has. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, that's great. And then what is something that most people don't really know about you?
Oh gosh. Uh, what they don't know about me. I am a grandma.
Oh,
So, and
wow.
yeah, so I have four grandchildren. So
Nice.
yeah, so that's, I don't know, but I don't know. I do post about my grandbabies a lot. So I don't know if that's something people don't know about me. But I'm a total introvert. Like, I feel like sometimes people think, oh, you get out and you do this, you must. No, I'm a total introvert.
Yeah.
I prefer to talk to the people in my head and
Oh, I
flip in my
completely get that.
imaginary friends. So
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my gosh. I completely get that. Like you go out into the world for the day and then you're like, okay, I'm ready to get home. I'm ready to be
yes,
back with the family and the cats and the dog. And I'm just ready to be
yes.
home.
Yes, yeah, I know. And people were like, go bigger, but go home. And then that meme that's like, people don't really know how much I really, really want to go home. That's me. I'm always the first to leave a party. And
Yeah.
not because I don't like the people, I love them. I just literally want to be home.
Yeah, I understand you completely. I think like, yeah, total bosom friend there. I completely
Yes,
understand. Yeah.
yes.
Oh, that's awesome. So what made you decide to go with the indie route instead of traditional? I know, was it like your family that had mentioned indie route?
I mean, I just think too, because it wasn't like it was something that I'd really dreamed of doing. Like I never had these grand, dreams about like being published by some big publisher. And
Yeah.
so I just was like, oh, okay, well, and the indie, I mean, I didn't hit the indie period when it was like extremely hot, like in
Right.
2012, where people were making just millions. But I hit it, I started in 2014, but I didn't really hit a good stride till 2015. And so I still was at the kind of a little bit at the edge of that cusp, but I I didn't ever, so it was like, oh, it just kind of seemed like a natural thing to do for somebody that wasn't like, I mean, again, I feel like I kind of lucked into it.
That's
And then,
okay. That's great.
yeah, yeah. And then after that, for me personally, I really love just the control I have. Like, nobody tells me when I can publish. Like, again, I can change my covers if I want to. I can pull a book down if I want to and change it. I have complete control over that. And I mean, I am a type A kind of person, so I like that.
Yeah.
And then I just started talking as I got to know more people and go to conferences and talk to people that are traditionally published. I was like, oh gosh, I make a lot more money than people that are traditionally published. Like most of the
Oh,
time, people just get that first advance, and that's pretty much all they're going to ever see.
oh, that's so tough.
Yeah, and it's hard, and I feel like too, like a lot of my friends who are traditionally published, like I feel like the companies make them market just as much as I have to market myself,
Right.
and they're not getting the returns that I get. And so
Mhm.
even so I know Brandon Sanderson, and I took his class, and I've actually had the opportunity to teach his class that he
Oh,
teaches
cool.
about
At
indie publishing.
BYU?
Yeah, at
Oh,
BYU.
cool.
Yeah,
That is
yeah.
so cool.
Yeah, so my one of my best friends, Becky Monson, she's also an author. We've been able to do that, and
Oh, so cool.
even he tells his students, like, if you're going to be a mid lister,
Mhm.
you should self-publish. Like you're
Okay.
going to make more money self-publishing. Again, it's hard. Again, I understand people's hesitation towards it. And
Yep.
I feel like obviously we want the validation. We want some editor to tell us, you're amazing. I want your book.
Right.
But I feel like I get that validation from my fans. So I
Oh,
don't,
yeah.
yeah.
And you're a great writer. So I mean,
Oh, well,
it's
I appreciate
just
that.
yeah, so keep it up and I mean it works for you. And let's see here. What are your top 5 favorite books of all time? I know it's a
Oh,
really hard question.
that's a hard one. Okay. I mean, obviously Jane Austen's up there, right?
Yeah.
Like I'm a huge like Pride and Prejudice and I love Persuasion. I'm always like, which one do I like more? I don't know. I've read everything, but I love Rebecca by Daphne is it
Oh yeah.
Demore? Yeah, I always say her last name wrong, but or Demure, I think Daphne Demure.
Oh yeah.
Oh my goodness, like I love that book so much. I love oh gosh, I can't think of it. It's an older book too. They made a movie out of it, but the book is completely different.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, I'm losing my brain. I'll hopefully think of it here in just a second. But I also I probably shouldn't say this because I have to give a big caveat for this book
Okay.
because it's a little it's definitely on the R-rated side. I actually skipped a lot of some of the scenes, but
Okay.
The Hating Game is probably one of the best like
Oh.
contemporary books I've read in a long time. Just amazing. Like the first 40 pages of that book is like just gold. Like I was like,
Wow.
wow, I just so good. But it is a little on the R-rated side, so I have to throw
Okay.
that out there in case anybody is like, oh my gosh, why did she recommend that? It's just the writing and the chemistry is
It's really
fantastic.
good. Yeah.
Yeah. And let's see. I love Little Women.
Oh, me too.
I love classic books. I mean I do love I love a good Amy Harmon book. The Sword and the Stone. Is that
Oh.
yeah, that's one of my favorites.
Okay.
So
What is your typical writing day like? And do you write every day?
well, I would love to. I try to write a little every day. Right now, I'm actually doing really well. This week has been one of those stellar writing weeks where I'm writing like 4,000 words a day.
Wow, great.
But my it just depends. I live near my daughters and they each have 2 kids, so kind of, I still, help them out or do things like that when I can, or my grandbabies show up. I'm always like, oh, sure, I'll just put my writing aside.
Yeah.
But I try to be consistent and try to write at least every weekday. I try to write. I'm, I am like I don't have like an office or anything like that. I know it's terrible, but I usually write in my bed or I sit on
It
this comfy
works.
that I have in my bedroom and write because I don't know why. I just want to be in a comfy spot. And
Right.
yeah, most of the novels I've written have been right in my bed and that's
Yay.
where they've been
That
written.
works perfectly.
Yeah, but I mean, I do have a schedule. I get up early every morning. I get up between 5:45 and 6 every morning. I
Okay.
get ready like a normal job. Like I just had a normal job. I get ready. And then I go to work. So, which means I make my bed and then I get right back in it and start working. So,
Yay. Okay.
yeah.
That's so cool. Okay. And then do you normally work on one project until it's done or do you work on a couple?
I typically just work on one project till it's
Okay.
done. I've tried to write multiple books at a time and just
Yeah.
for me it's too hard. So, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I completely understand that. I've been trying to like do that too, where it's like maybe have the chance of working on more than one, but I'm like, oh, squirrel. Like and then I get
Yes.
totally distracted from what I need to finish. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's hard for me. I'm an edit as I go author, so like I
Okay.
can't move past something if there's a problem. Like
Mhm.
I have to fix it. Like I know some people just are like just write it all out and then you can go back and fix it, but
Yep.
I'm not like that. I am an edit as I go. So my draft when it's done, it's pretty much that's it. It's done. So
Okay.
I don't have to go back and make major edits. I mean,
Yeah.
obviously grammar and those kind of things, but
Okay. Well, that
yeah.
is so cool. That's
Yeah.
great. Then it makes it easier once you get to the end and it's like you don't have this big
Yes.
wadded necklace.
Yes. Yeah. That would just give me way too much anxiety.
Yeah. Oh, I completely understand. Yeah. That's awesome though. Okay, so then what tips do you have for writers who want to do what you do, where they write their books and they make a living off of them? What tips would you recommend for them?
I mean, what I always tell like aspiring people is like read, 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 write, write, write. Like it's really important to read in your genre. And and read all genres, but really read what's in your genre, what's
Mhm.
selling, why is, what can you gain from it? I now I say that, but like when I'm writing, I do not read in my genre.
Okay.
So
Oh,
never, just because I just don't want any weird crossover by accident. So
yeah.
I do not read in my genre while I'm writing. So like if I'm writing rom-coms, you'll typically see me reading like fantasy or something like that. Um,
Nice.
yeah, I don't, so that's me. I also like, I think it's important to go to conferences.
Mm.
And the nice part too is that like, since COVID and all of those kind of things, you can actually watch a lot of conferences online. So like that, if that expense is, you don't want to pay
Mm.
the travel expense, you can just pay for the conference expense and watch things online. So I feel like it's important just to learn from other people and then just see what works for you. Do you know who Rebecca Symes is?
I've heard of her. Yeah.
Yeah, she's like she coaches authors and things, and I've gone to a couple of her classes, and
Cool.
she talks about this like not just because it works for somebody doesn't mean it's going to work for you, and I really like that concept.
Mhm.
So because obviously what works for me is not going to work for everybody else, but I feel like it's important just to learn from other people and then glean what you can, but then do what works for you, because again,
Sure.
what works for me isn't going to work for you typically. But yeah, I just feel like learn the business, like just really, really learn the business side of it. I feel like when you dig in and get to know the ins and out, like it's really important, especially if you're self-publishing. It's just that's just, you have to do that. So
Yep. Yeah.
that's
So, what's been the most difficult thing about being a writer slash indie publisher for you?
um I mean, I think just the level of exposing myself, like, like when you're putting yourself out there and just some of the criticism like that,
Mhm.
that really, really got to me. And I think comparing myself to other people, like where other people are in their journey at the beginning. And I feel like I've gotten better about not doing that. Like I felt I like redefining success was really important for me to do. Like, what is success to me? Like success, I'm making a living. I'm writing the stories I love. Like and I'm telling my stories. That's success to me. And also just I've had to learn not to let other people tell me how to feel about my work. Like, I mean, I'm always open for constructive criticism, but just people just to criticize, just to criticize. I've had to learn to really shut those kind of voices out, because it can be really paralyzing. And it did paralyze me for a while, to be quite honest, to the point where I was like, I don't really know if I want to do this anymore.
Yeah,
Um,
that's not fun.
yeah, so I feel like that's probably been the hardest part, and just overcoming that. and
Mhm.
and it's just something I continually have to work on. But I mean, I was at a point where I was like checking my reviews constantly, 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 and
Mm.
now I can go weeks without checking my reviews. Again, not that I reviews I think are important, and I my how I do it now is like the first couple of weeks when I publish a book, I will check the reviews daily, because I want to make sure that I'm making my fans happy.
Mhm.
And after that, like I feel like most of my hardcore fans are probably going to read it in the first couple of weeks. And so if they're happy, then I'm like, okay, then I've done my job. And
Right.
then after that, I'm not so worried about what everybody else is saying about it. So
Thing. What is the most precious thing to you about being an author, indie author, and everything? Most precious.
when somebody writes me and just tells me like, yeah, like your book meant so much to me, or like it touched me in some way, just like knowing that my words, like, even though sometimes, even though I write like rom-coms and romances, that
Yeah.
like it helped somebody, like, that to me, that's worth everything. So
Ah, That's so beautiful. I love that too. So,
Yeah.
when it comes to launching your books and everything, are there any things that you found have helped you with getting more reviews?
So I'm not somebody who like I know a lot of there are a lot of authors have like big street teams where they just like
Mhm.
give all, and which is totally great. That works for them. I'm actually not like that at all. Like my friends are always like, what? You only give out like 12 arcs? I'm like, yep, that's it. So yeah, I don't. So what I typically I don't know that I don't know if there's anything magic about that. Obviously, you just have to go by numbers, like how
Mhm.
many people read your books. Typically, like I think it's only like 1% of something, like one out of maybe 100 people might review your books, like who read it.
Right.
I mean, now it's a little different with Amazon and their stars because a lot more people do because they'll just like, oh, click because they don't have to write a review. But written reviews are harder to get for sure.
Sure.
So I feel like uh, what has worked for me is just making sure my launches, period, are good. Like
Mhm.
I've done a lot of marketing beforehand
Okay.
so that when I do release, like a lot of people will buy the book and then that shoots the reviews up.
Oh,
So
sure.
yeah, so what I typically do is I try to at least a few months before the book comes out, just like every week teasing it, like, okay,
Mm.
like here's a teaser, and then like the month before, like doing giveaways with my teasers and doing some marketing, paid marketing and those kind of things. So I just try
Sure.
to hype the book up as much as I can before it gets released. So
Very
that's
Where can people find you and your books?
So I most of all of my books but one are exclusively on Amazon. Paperbacks, ebooks, audio. All my audiobooks are on Audible, I Apple, and there's some other channels. Some of my other audiobooks are on because I have published with a couple different audiobook companies
Okay.
with some of my audiobooks, so they're on different channels. Some of my paperbacks, because people can buy the distribution through Amazon, so some of my paperbacks are on Barnes and Noble, Walmart.com, like those kind of things, but
Okay.
mostly Amazon. Like I'm all
Cool.
over Amazon.
Cool. Well, it was
Yeah,
so much fun to chat with you,
yeah.
and thank
For
you
asking
so
me.
much
Yeah.
for chatting with me, and it was just great.
Yeah. Thanks so much for having me.